let's get right back to it. I think in the last stream yesterday, we got to a point where the infrastructure, the infrastructure consent. So I think and I did it only for, well, that's not the right stuff, but I did it only for these kind of like MVP. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do need to do this, and the reason I was going to do the delete was so that I can clean up after myself when I run those tests. But I can also do that later. I also need to, it's not infrastructure setup, but I need to make an authorizer. Yeah. And I have written authorizers in the past. So what I'll probably do for a lot of this code, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just start getting into code and writing code. A lot of this code is going to be very similar to things that I have done in the past. I'm gonna go ahead and guess. So what I'll do is copy code from places that I've used it before, and then I'll go over what exactly is happening. And I'm obviously going to have to tweak it, but I'll go over stuff as I paste it in. One thing I have to do, and I don't really have to do this, I don't remember how exactly I did this before. Yeah, there we go. Because it's TypeScript, it tries to ignore JS files, but I don't want it to ignore the JS files in the source. So, so this is an authorizer. So I know I have to do an authorizer, and this authorizer specifically used Crow. So I know that this is set up for JWTs pretty well. And what I did with Crow, and what I am doing with this, this Lambda, for anyone who doesn't know what a Lambda Authorizer is, this Lambda function will be called whenever a new request is made with a header that I specify that is unique, because I use caching on my authorization. It saves Lambda calls. It's faster for the end user. And I don't imagine that anything I store in that JWT is going to be changing very often. If it does, then someone can log out, log back in. That'll generate a new JWT, and then the caching won't, that JWT won't be cached. So if there are any new claims on a JWT, then it'll be fine. So what it does, it takes out the authorization header and it splits it. It splits it here on the space, so it's pretty much bearer and then token. So now I have the actual token, and then you take the kind of deconstruct the ARN of the method so that you can get the API gateway ARN and the stage, and then the way that it all looks when it comes into the handler, the method ARN is like the API gateway ARN / the stage ARN / the resource ARN / the method ARN. I think / method, not ARN. It doesn't append ARNs every time, but so what I'm doing here, like I split it first, and then I get the API gateway stage and then the ARN, and then combine it back. So I think what could also happen is like resource method. Those would be the other entries in the resulting array. And then I can construct the API stage ARN, and the reason I do that is because in this generate policy, it's based on the things are accepted and denied based on state of an application and endpoints used. So that's how I block people. Like if they've gone over a quota, you just block them at the authorization lambda. Then I have a try catch. I do have a logger, so I'm gonna I use Winston. I used it in the calendar API, and I'm going to use it again to kind of construct the logs in JSON. I like to log in JSON because I think it has benefits, especially when it comes to like in the future, if you ever needed to store logs, you could store them in that JSON format and then query based on certain keys and values. So I'm going to change some of this logging stuff out, make it look a little nicer. This is getting the application's public key. I did some different stuff in Crow where I needed this. Then it reads it, so that's just getting the path. Then it actually reads it, and then it creates the public key, and then it verifies. This is old because it's using a file. Oh no, it's the application's public key. So there is no JWKS for this. Or I might have made one, but I didn't integrate it with the JWT verify. Let's see. I think I have it in other places. I definitely have the verification in other places. Let's see. Where would that be? I think the calendar API does not, but Papyrus would have it. No. Does this have it? No. I don't know where my verification is with JWKS. It's in Crow op. It's in the exam. Oh, it's in the front end. So there's the creating a JWKS and then verifying with the JWKS, and then you can pull out the claims or whatever from the payload. So I'll do this, and then I'll in here, instead of all of this, I'll do that. That'll need to change. I think we're good to do that. And then I wanted this, so it's the token, and then it used to be a file, or you can use a JWKS. Jose's super cool. It's a very well done package, and I appreciate the author a lot. He does some cool stuff. There are no dependencies on it. Jose is only built on the native crypto package, so it's well done. I really like it. I really enjoy using it, and it will probably forever be my go-to package for anything JSON web. So let's see. That doesn't matter, but this might matter. This is your claim set. So after you verify it, or while you're verifying it rather, you can give it certain claims that you want it to respect. And that would be in here. So I don't need, at least as of right now, I don't need any of this. I do need the config though. I'm gonna go in shared. Sorry, I had that problem in the last one. I had the problem in the last video where I tried to import the JS file and it wouldn't do it because it was like it wasn't a module or whatever. So what I'm gonna do here is do it once and then it'll just be kind of cached, because npm or node rather, when you export from a module, it exports singletons. So if you export configuration once, it's kind of by default cached. It just puts it all in an object and then points to it. So whenever you re-import it, it's always the same object that you get pointed towards. So as much as I don't like copying code like this, I'm going to. Current directory and then the config.json, and that's going to parse it all out, and then module.exports equals config. And now my exports are just the contents of that configuration. So when I come in here, what I can do is opt/config, and I'll explain the opt in a second. And then in here, I want to get the oh no, this is the wrong place to do it. Actually, can I? If I do it there, will it update here? No, it will not. So I should not do it there. Don't save that. Only do it here. Okay. JWKS URL. And I'll leave the defaults in here. Or I'll make like an example file, and then people can copy it. Right, so down here, and then this is the same thing, and then there will be defaults in here. Your JWT server URL, right, and then JWT claims will be an array, and it can be, yeah, max token age. Oops. Max token age, and that can be, let's see, what did I have it at currently? Currently it's at this. We'll do that. Just as an example, but I also want to do that in here, except instead of this, I know what mine's going to be. I might ignore the .json one. I think for that to take place, it's like if a file's already been put in Git and then you Git ignore it, it doesn't show up. So I think you have to like delete the file and then bring it back. So I think that's it. Let's just rename it. Let's do that, and then I need to. just amend it because no one's watching this. No one's watching this repo anyway. And then when I do that, it should disappear. But it doesn't. Let's see if I can. I just want to get this working real quickly because I know I'll forget it if I don't. Okay, and now it's not there. Now I want to put it back. I wonder if it broke that link. No, it's still there. Should be ignored. Well, it says it's on track. Like it's not showing up in Git. Let's see if I can add things to it. Yeah, it's not showing up in Git, but that I mean, obviously that link is still present. I'll just delete that, and then maybe that was part of the reason. I think this is probably just a VS Code bug. That's my guess. Because it's not showing up, like when I do a git status, it doesn't show up, right? So now this is committed, so whenever I link it in here, so now, okay, now it's blurred out, and now that one's blurred out. So my configs are not going to be pushed. Obviously, they might as well be public because I'm going to stream what I'm making, but I think it makes it a little nicer. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to determine if that was even a good idea. If I should have even done that. Because now that link, I had that link in there because it was stored in Git, and now it's not in Git. So the files are not going to be where they should be. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe config should be stored. Well, that was an interesting exercise of not thinking through things. Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. It's not like I'm going to store secrets in there, so that was fun. All right. So the JWT, I'm going to start also adding to the README, especially with the config, how it works, because I could very easily see that getting lost, like even for myself, like forgetting what that is. TQS. There might be more than one. SNS topic and Lambdas. Let's see better. Then we have JDBKS URL. This is the URL. We should also have something like use authorization. True. Right, because it did say in here, I think, can be completely disabled if desired, although that is not recommended. So another thing I need to do in here, right? Yeah, I think in here, in my props, I need to have something that's like, that looks at config. So to do check config for use session. Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it like that for now, and then when I go through these like final API props, API key won't be true, but authorization type, I can set it. So I think that can that be none? Yeah, you can set it to none, which is the default. Cognito, which uses AWS Cognito. IAM, which uses IAM rules, or custom, which uses a Lambda Authorizer. So if it's custom, or if this is set, then I'll do custom. Otherwise, I won't. So there's a reminder to myself to do that. Key in the README, I need to also make note of that. Use authorization terms. I think that looks good. I think people should keep authorization on. Is the URL should be used to verify the JDT past API. think he has it here. Panva, that's his name. Philip Skokin. I hope I pronounced that correctly, although I probably did not. Well done. Well done. Your package is great. You look at JWTs. I don't think this takes you. There we go. JWT verification and claim set validation. Verify options. So these are what you can. Yeah. Yeah. What is it? Jose James. There we go. So now there's a link back to the JWT verify stuff. So and there's the config. It's exported. I don't know if that's gonna work, but we're gonna find out. And then in here, I want to get the config, and this will just be called config. And then config. There are my JWT claims, and then what I'll do is just put them in there. I don't even need to do that. I'll do that if I ever get to the point of putting like defaults in there. But I'm gonna try to leave this as open as I can to people, so that they can change it how they'd like. 1 second. All right. And then we can pull the email out of the payload. So there also needs to be an email in the JWT's payload. So I need to put that into here. Lambda Authorizer will expect a key named email to be in the JWT's payload to then be used as a user's unique ID for authorization. So I guess if someone really wanted to kind of like mess with things and make their own JWT server, it doesn't necessarily have to be an email that's in that payload. And I could also change that. I'm not going to do that now. That's something for the future. If someone wants me to change it, I will change it. I'm not going to over-engineer it from the start. But that could be a config item as well, like what's the name of the user's unique ID in the payload. And then if someone already has a JWT server and that uses, let's say like UUID or something like that in the payload as the key name, and then they want to use that, like let's say it's a GUID, as the user's unique identifier for authorization, then they can go in there and change from email to UUID. They can do that. And I don't think that would be too difficult. So actually, I could. Let's see. I shouldn't have done this. Unique ID. I shouldn't have done this, but GWT unique ID key, and then I can do that, and that should pull it out. Oh well. Here we are. No, I don't need that up. I need this one up. Now I use email, so I'm going to use email. User, let's call this user unique ID key, and then in here I need to change that as well. And there's my unique ID, and that gets, did I even use the email? No, I didn't even use the email. That's funny. So pretty much what this would do is in the payload it pulls out the user's unique ID, and then that will also be interesting. Oh, this is very interesting. Like the code that I wrote, I don't remember exactly what this code was used for, so but none of this, yeah, the unique ID doesn't, I might not even need this because I'm doing authorization at the resource level, right? I'm doing that like after I retrieve the site ID and stuff. So it might not matter. Or it might. Maybe I will, maybe I'll leave that. Because maybe I can like get the user and then all of the data in here, like the owner, admin, writer, reader, all of that good stuff, that can be put into the authorizer, like into the policy that I make as like metadata, and then it's easier. It's just one less call. It's kind of cached information, if you will. It's one less call that the lambdas that implement the functionality will have to make. So maybe I will do that. Get user. So I'll need some sort of port that is a get user, where I pass in the user's unique ID and I get back user data. There is no data, and user does not exist. So this would not work on the first time. Is that right? Yeah. So it's a valid JWT at this point, so maybe here I need to create user. Yeah, maybe here I need to create the user. And that'll return user data. Interesting. I didn't think about this because normally I have like user management at like a different level, so I don't have it at this level. But I guess this could still work. I don't see why not. And then generate policy. So generate policy is the last thing, and I might I might only do the authorizer code today, and not actually. Oh, whoops! I also need to do this, and not actually do any of the functionality code. Unfortunately, we'll see. But I think I'll probably cap it after we get through the authorizer code. I need to. Did I add this to the README? No. It needs to be in there. This. Okay. And this also needs to be wired. Okay. There's that configuration. And this is already not up to date. That's something I was kind of worried about, but okay. For me, yeah, this would be this URL, and then I need to pull JBKS out of here, JBKS URL I should say, and that's what creates the URL. Didn't need this, I don't, oh, crypto was like, crypto lingered. I also need to get to here. And I need Jose. Now that'll be packaged up whenever, yeah, that's good. So now I have Jose. Now I have the config brought in. In the handler, I get the token, which is verified later. I deconstruct the methods that this I may or may not need. Then I grab all the JDBT stuff out of the config. I create a remote JDBKS. That's used to verify the token, and then in the payload I pull out the user's unique ID. I need to either get the user or create the user. The use case I'm thinking of with this that I'm a little hung up on is if I'm going to cache this, right? If I'm going to cache this, if someone's new, the first thing they're probably going to do is get in and then create a site, right? And then if they try to then look at the site and I base everything off of this data, then they wouldn't be able to see the site. Yeah, that's what I'm hung up on. That's what I'm hung up on. And they, I don't know if that made sense, but the flow I'm thinking of is, right, I'm a brand new user. I don't have any data on this API. I authenticate, I have a valid JWT, my user ID is thomas@thomas.com, right? And then I would go and create a site, and then when I go to view the site, the API, what is it? First off, get sites wouldn't work because that would probably be based on the data that's in the payload if I decide to get the user in the authorizer. And then if I try to get sites by ID on the site that I just created, my data is not there already saying that I can view it. So I would right off the bat not be able to view my own site, which is not good. Where this works well is if someone only creates, like, let's say they create a total of 20 sites and then they only read, right? Then I have that data pretty much, I get a free cache of that data. So yeah, I don't really know what to do there. Maybe I can only like add that information in the policy if it exists, and if it doesn't exist, I just ignore it in the Lambda, like in the Lambda payloads. That might be one alternative to do. To For now, I'll leave it like that, right? I can't really leave it like that, but I will for now, and then I'll figure out what to do with it. And then we have generate policy. This is the last bit. This was the bit that kind of confused me with Lambda authorizers. So you can pass in any arbitrary piece of authentication, whether it be an API key and a header that you do some custom logic on, or a JWT, whatever. But that the Lambda authorizer has to return an IAM policy, which is all of this. And this isn't anything crazy. This is derived from a code example that's on AWS's documentation. But how I like to think of it is you're pretty much returning an object that has, well, if you've ever looked at IAM, AWS IAM, and if you haven't, it doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal, at least for this project. There's something called a policy document, and it's pretty much a JSON document that says what a user can and can't do. And that's basically it. So what this is saying, what this is doing is creating an object, and then it's populating that object with a principal ID, a policy document, and context. And context is just any additional stuff you want to throw in there. So when I've been saying, one second. When I've been saying I want to cache user data in the authorization policy, it's this context. I can throw whatever I want to in there and it'll store it, which is nice, but also, I don't know, you kind of have to weigh whether or not it's worth it. So, because then it's static as long as you cache the result of the authorizer. So, I don't need any of the state stuff, although this was pretty cool when I did it. Oh yeah, and that's why I did up in here, why I deconstructed or parsed through the ARN that's given. When a JWT is passed into a method, when a JWT is passed into the Lambda authorizer, you get the method ARN. If you authorize it against the method ARN, it will then only have, because the way IAM works is you have to give explicit allows, otherwise it's a deny. So, at least the way that this is working. So, if you only gave it from that method, what it would pretty much do is it would only give it access to one resource and one method on that resource. And then it would be cached, and it wouldn't allow you to use any of the other resources with that JWT until the cache was done. And then the next endpoint that you hit, that's all you would be allowed to hit until, again, that cache cycled through, which isn't good behavior. So I parse through the method string to get this stuff, and then that is passed in to the policy document to create mostly this. This is what really matters. Because what this is saying is you have access to this stage, anything in this stage. So actually it should probably be this. It doesn't matter really, but it probably should be this. This is saying you have access to anything in this API, not anything in this method ARN, which is only that method and that resource. So instead of only being able to post to sign up, you should be able to use that entire API, at least the way that this API is going to work. Obviously, it was a little different with the application state and whatnot because I wanted to still allow people to use the API, but I wasn't going to allow anyone to sign up or verify with the like if an application wasn't paying for enough users, then I didn't want to allow any more users to sign up. Is pretty much what this is saying, which was valid, but that's not necessary in this API. It's completely different. So that's what the auth response will be, and I think this is perfectly fine the way it is. And then the so that's needed. That's needed. The data. I'm not sure yet if I want to put that in here. I'll put user data, but I don't think I want to. If I do this, no, I can't. This is user data. It looks like JavaScript will accept that syntax. It looks really weird, I know. But I'm keeping that as kind of a placeholder for myself to go back through later and figure out if I want to store user data in there. I can see the benefits of it, but also I don't think it's going to add enough latency onto an endpoint to really make a difference. Yeah, so especially because I can create a function that is like, does user have authorization on, right? Like, does user have authorization? Make a function, pass in the unique user ID, which I'm going to have anyway. Like I'm going to, so I will have to put it in here. I'm going to have at least have like the user's unique ID. Yeah. So I'm at least going to have this. Right. And then this I will for sure have to, response. I'm glad I caught that. Context equals user unique ID. I'm at least going to have this because I'll need to check the user ID against the database. So I'm going to need that context, and that's not going to change. A person's email is not going to change in the middle of them browsing this site, right? That doesn't make any sense. So that part's necessary, and I think that's probably good for now. I will have to do that part, but that will happen anyway as I'm kind of going through all this, because maybe in the next section I'll set up my DynamoDB stuff to function with the backend. It's going to have to happen for the first handler anyway, so I might as well just start working on it. I have some kind of boilerplate code to do all that, so I use something called the document client. So in here I'll have database session, and then all this stuff is set up. It uses these libraries, and this is the real big one. This one helps a lot because it serializes all the data before it sends it to DynamoDB. And then that document client is passed in to different, so document client gets passed in, and you can operate on those resources that are data entities. So I need to create the user. But to do that, I need the DynamoDB stuff in place. So I'll probably do DynamoDB next time. I think This is all going to probably break whenever I push it because that's how software works. But I think this is a good start. I think this will probably work right off the bat just because I've used this code before. The config stuff is the only thing I'm a little bit curious about. I'm not completely sure. I'll have to also create a crow application, right? Yeah, I have to create a crow application um, to make my JWT stuff work, but that's not a part of this project. So I'll probably do that offline and get my user set up so I can at least like test. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that offline. And then when I come back, I'll be able to, at least in like Insomnia, oh, I don't have it up right now, but in Insomnia, I'll be able to hit crow auth. I said crow API before, I meant crow auth. I'll be able to hit crow auth to get a JWT. That's just how I do user authentication. But it'll be extensible to anything because it's just JWT validation, that's all. Yeah, and I think that'll work this part. The user stuff, I need to wait on DynamoDB. Generate policy, I know works because I've used this multiple times over. The user data is pretty much the only thing left in the authorizer, but I think that'll be okay. I think that'll be okay. So next time I will do some database work. And then, well, at least I'll get the database stuff set up. That'll be pretty easy. That'll mostly be copying and pasting. And then some other like boilerplate hexagonal architecture stuff that I have used in the past. That's kind of a downside of hexagonal architecture is there is more overhead in code to write. Luckily, I've written a lot of that code before. It's like the incoming ports and the outgoing ports, I've written a lot of that before. So we should be good to go on that. And again, I'll do the same approach. I'll explain it as I go through it. It makes building it a little longer, but I think it's also, hopefully, people think it's valuable information and people like to hear it. So let me know if you do. And then after I get the boilerplate hexagonal architecture stuff set up, which should not take very long. Again, mostly copying and pasting. Then we'll actually be able to start writing ports and business logic for the handlers. So I might be able to get all that stuff done in the next stream in about an hour or so. But we'll just have to see because I expected to write handler code today and all I did was write and explain authorizer code. So that's all part of it. If you liked it, please let me know. I guess subscribe maybe and like. It feels kind of weird to say that stuff, but that would let me know if you enjoy the content, and feel free to reach out to me, please. I always love getting emails from people who read my blogs and stuff, so I guess comments or emails, you can find my blog in places. I think YouTube channel has it, and my email's on it, so I don't try to hide that stuff. So reach out if you're curious, if you have any questions, if you want to use this, if you want to use certain bits of code. Again, this is all open source, so most of this stuff you should be able to just reference on GitHub, but I'll start putting the GitHub links also in the streams so that there's additional reference to it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.